Well kids, after studying this module, you shall be able to understand the process of economic growth. Know more about the factors affecting the long run rate of growth. Even you will be able to learn about the Harrod-Dommer model of growth, understand the neoclassical solo growth model, comprehend the role of savings and capital accumulation in the growth process, characterize steady state equilibrium, and learn about the implications of the solo model. Well, here we are going to introduce the concept of economic growth, wherein we ask what determines the rate of growth of output in the long run. We try to identify the factors that determine that why some countries grow fast and others lag behind. In what follows, we examine one of the early theories of economic growth based on the Harrod-Dommer model, followed by one of the most influential theories of growth based on the neoclassical or solo growth model. The theories of economic growth that will be covered essentially highlight the role of two sets of factors that are critical for sustained growth in output, viz. Factor accumulation and the other one is technology. Early models of growth like the Harrod-Dommer model emphasize the role of factor accumulation, but it did not fully capture the importance of technological progress. Well, in contrast, the solo growth model demonstrated the sharp limits to the growth based entirely on factor accumulation. It established that the rate of technical progress was the most important factor that determined the equilibrium growth rate of output per capita in the long run. So kids, what do you understand by factor accumulation? Well, the concept is linked to the notion of capital stock and the rate of capital accumulation or investment in an economy. Investments essentially add to the capital stock of an economy. The productive capacity of an economy is determined by its capital stock, which includes both physical capital like machines and human capital or skilled manpower. Well, this is used to produce consumption goods. Consumption goods, hereby I mean pens, fruits, clothes, etc., which are consumed by the households, as well as the capital goods, for example, steel, blast furnace, etc., that are used for the further production by firms. Well, assuming a closed economy, the lower is aggregate consumption, the higher is aggregate savings and hence investments. So, for any given productive capacity, lower production of consumption goods and higher savings means there is a higher production of capital goods and hence relatively rapid expansion in capital stock. Now, the national income identity in a simple closed economy without a government may be stated as S is equal to I. So, the higher is savings and lower is current consumption. So, the higher is savings and lower is current consumption, higher is investments or capital accumulation and higher the expansion of productive capacity of the economy. Well, this gives a broad idea regarding the importance of savings and investments for capital accumulation or factor accumulation. Well, this gives a broad idea regarding the importance of savings and investments for capital accumulation or factor accumulation in an economy. You know guys, in 1939, Roy Harrod and in 1946, F.C. Dommer, both of them pointed out the importance of the savings rate and capital output ratio for economic growth. However, later work by Robert Solow emphasized the importance of technological progress for sustained growth of per capita output in the long run. Slide 21, summary. You see, savings and investment determine the pace of capital accumulation in an economy. The process of ठीक है, समझ गए। ठीक है। Harrod-Dormer growth model, a brief overview. Assumptions of the model. The main assumptions of the model may be stated as follows. Point 1. We have a simple closed economy without a government, and macroeconomic equilibrium at time t is given as follows. Yt is equal to Ct plus It from the demand side, and Yt is equal to Ct plus St from the income side, so that St is equal to It. The savings rate is a constant given by small s is equal to capital St divided by capital Yt, where small s is greater than 0 and less than 1. So we can say small s Yt is equal to capital St is equal to capital It. Assumption 3. The aggregate capital stock in the economy at time t is given by Kt, and the capital output ratio is given by nu, that is nu is equal to Kt divided by Yt. Assumption 4. The capital stock in the economy depreciates at the rate d per period. Note, both small s, nu and small d are exogenous parameters in this model. Small s is a behavioral parameter determined by average saving propensity of households in the economy, while nu is a technological parameter determined by available technology. Since it's a given constant, this means the underlying assumption is that the economy is characterized by fixed coefficient, bracket open, L-shaped, bracket close. Production functions with limited factor substitutability. A constant value of nu also implies there is no technological progress in this model. Implications of the model. Capital formation occurs in this economy via fresh investments, in the bracket IT, that takes place in each period. In each period, a fraction of the capital stock, Kt, depreciates at the rate small d, and the capital stock carried over to the next period, Kt plus 1, consists of the undepreciated capital stock of period t and the investments undertaken in that period, It. That is, Kt plus 1 is equal to, bracket open, 1 minus d, bracket close, Kt plus It, which is equation number 1. Note, as long as fresh investments exceed the amount of depreciated capital stock, there is an increase in the total capital stock in the economy. Capital stock decreases in case investments are less than the amount of depreciated capital stock. It remains the same in case investments are just sufficient to replace worn out capital. That is, Kt plus 1 minus Kt is greater than 0 as long as It is greater than small d Kt. Kt plus 1 minus Kt is less than 0 as long as It is less than small d Kt, and Kt plus 1 minus Kt is equal to 0 as long as It is equal to small d Kt. Using k is equal to nu y assumption and I is equal to small s y assumption, we can write equation 1 as mu yt plus 1 is equal to, bracket open, 1 minus d, bracket close, nu yt plus small s yt. This is equation number 2. Based on the assumptions of this model and using equations 1 and 2, it can be shown that the rate of growth of aggregate output in the Harrod-Dormer model is given by small t is equal to, bracket open,
small s divided by nu bracket close minus small d. This is equation 3, where small g is equal to bracket open yt plus 1 minus yt bracket close divided by yt. Now let us examine the implications of the rate of growth in the Harrod-Dommer model. Clearly, for any given rate of depreciation, the higher is small s and the lower is nu, the higher is rate of growth. This highlights the importance of factor accumulation in this model. For any given nu, bracket open, mu being determined exogenously by available technology, bracket close, policymakers can raise small g via policies that encourage savings and raise the savings rate small s. We can also calculate the rate of growth of output per capital in this model and show it by small g p is equal to bracket open small s divided by nu bracket close minus n minus d is equal to small g minus n, which is equation 4, where n is the rate of population growth. Clearly, as long as output grows faster than the rate of growth of population, per capita output will be growing. That is, small gp is greater than 0 as long as g is greater than n, where small s and nu determine the rate of growth of aggregate output.
The Solow model, formulated by Robert Solow in 1956, is commonly referred to as the neoclassical growth model. It remains one of the most influential models of economic growth till today. There are important differences between the Harrod-Dommer and Solow models in terms of assumptions as well as main results regarding the sources of growth. We shall see here that technological progress and not factor accumulation is the most important source of sustained long-run growth in this model. We will discuss the case of Solow model without technological progress. Solow introduced the notion of an aggregate production function characterized by factor substitutability and diminishing marginal returns to factors of production. So, in contrast to the Harrod-Dommer assumption of constant capital output ratio, in the Solow model, the capital output ratio is allowed to vary and determined endogenously. Assumptions of Solow model without technological progress. The main assumptions of this model may be stated as follows. First, we have a simple closed economy without a government and macroeconomic equilibrium at time t. It is given as follows. Capital YT is equal to capital CT plus capital IT from the demand side, and capital YT is equal to capital CT plus capital ST from the income side, so that capital ST is equal to capital IT. Second assumption is the savings rate is a constant given by small s. This small s is equal to capital ST by capital YT, where saving rate is greater than 0 but less than 1. So we can say that small s into capital YT is equal to capital ST is equal to capital IT. Third assumption, aggregate output is produced using capital and labor inputs, and the production function for aggregate output is given by capital YT is equal to function of capital KT and capital LT, where capital KT is capital stock and capital LT is labor. This production function, commonly referred to as the neoclassical production function, exhibits diminishing factor returns and constant returns to scale. The implications of these two assumptions will be further discussed below. The fourth assumption, in this version of Solow model, we assume that there is no technological progress. The fifth assumption, the capital stock in the economy depreciates at the rate D per period. Properties of the aggregate production function. The production function in the Solow model is given by capital YT is equal to function of capital KT and capital LT. It is characterized by constant returns to scale, which implies that if labor and capital both are changed in the same proportion, output will also change in the same proportion. That is, function of small m capital K and small m capital L is equal to small m capital Y. Using this property, we can express the production function in terms of per capita output and per capita capital stock as follows. Suppose both capital LT and capital KT are increased by a proportion of 1 by capital LT, then due to constant returns to scale, output will also increase by the same proportion. So we can write capital YT by capital LT is equal to the function of capital LT by capital LT and capital KT by capital LT. It is represented as equation 5. Capital YT by capital LT is equal to function of 1 and small kt, where capital KT by capital LT is equal to small kt. It is represented as equation 6. Small yt is a function of 1 and small kt, which is equal to the function of small kt, where small yt is equal to capital YT by capital LT. It is represented by equation 7.
The production function also exhibits diminishing factor returns. This means keeping one factor constant, as more and more of the other factor is employed, initially output will increase at an increasing rate, but thereafter it will increase at a diminishing rate. This means that the production function is concave, implying that as we employ more and more capital, the marginal productivity of capital will fall. Similarly, for labor, as we employ more and more of labor, the marginal productivity of labor will decline. Therefore, the production function is concave in both the inputs. The assumption of diminishing factor returns essentially implies f double slash bracket open small kt bracket close is less than 0. Diagrammatically, due to the property of diminishing returns, the production function will appear as in the first figure. We have expressed the production function in per capita terms. You should note, as capital per capita increases from a low level, initially there is relatively large increases in output per capita. However, as capital per capita keeps on increasing, the incremental increase in output per capita tapers off, owing to the shape of the production function. This demonstrates the implication of the assumption of diminishing marginal returns to capital that plays a crucial role in driving the results in the Solow model. Also note that the capital output ratio keeps changing along the production function. This is in contrast to the Harrod-Dommer model above, wherein the capital output ratio was constant. 4.2. Capital accumulation and growth in the Solow model. From a discussion in the earlier section, we know that the process of capital formation takes place as described in equation 1. That is, kt plus 1 is equal to bracket open 1 minus small d bracket close kt plus it. We can also rewrite this as kt plus 1 minus kt is equal to it minus small d kt, which is equal to small s yt minus small d kt, which is equation 8. Here we have used IT is equal to small s YT, which is a part of an assumption. To express this in per capita terms, we divide both sides of equation 8 by LT to get bracket open KT plus 1 divided by LT plus 1 bracket close minus bracket open KT divided by LT bracket close is equal to small s bracket open YT divided by LT bracket close minus small d bracket open KT divided by LT bracket close, or small kt plus 1 minus small kt is equal to small s small yt minus d small kt, which is equation 9, where small kt is equal to kt divided by lt and small yt is equal to yt divided by lt. Using equation 7, we can rewrite equation 9 as small kt plus 1 minus small kt is equal to small s multiplied by function of bracket open small kt bracket close minus small d small kt, which is represented by equation 10. Note that the left hand side of 10 equation represents change in capital stock per capita, which is positive as long as investment per capita in period T bracket open given by small s multiplied by function of bracket open small kt bracket close exceeds worn out or depreciated per capita capital stock in this period bracket open small d multiplied by small kt bracket close. As before, note if investment per worker exceeds depreciation per worker, the change in capital per worker is positive and capital per worker increases. Whereas if investment per worker is less than depreciation per worker, the change in capital per worker is negative or capital per worker decreases. We will now examine the implications of equation 10 for change in capital stock and hence output using a diagrammatic approach. In this figure, we represent the two functions on the right hand side of equation 10. We measure small kt on the x-axis and the on the y-axis. We measure the functions of small kt, viz small s multiplied by function of bracket open small kt bracket close and small d multiplied by small kt. Note that first point small s multiplied by function of bracket open small kt bracket close represents savings and hence investment per capita, and this function has the same shape as the production function f bracket open small kt bracket close, but it lies below the production function as small s is greater than 0 and less than 1. Point 2. Small d multiplied by small kt represents the amount of depreciated or worn out capital stock per capita. It is a straight line through the origin with slope small d. In the diagram, when capital per worker is K0T, the corresponding level of output per capita bracket open that can be read off the production function bracket close is DA. The savings and investments corresponding to this level of output bracket open that can be read off the small s multiplied by function of bracket open small kt bracket close function bracket close is given by the distance CA, while depreciation per worker is given by the distance BA. Since CA is greater than BA, there is an increase in capital per worker in the bracket, that is small kt plus 1 minus small kt is greater than 0 bracket close. This means if the economy starts with the per capita capital stock equals to K0T, it will accumulate capital so that capital per capita will increase as indicated by the arrows on the x-axis. Note that as we move right along the horizontal axis at higher and higher levels of capital per capita, investment increases by less and less, while depreciation keeps increasing in proportion to capital. This is owing to the assumption of diminishing returns to capital, which means the greater the existing stock of capital per capita, the lower the addition to output at the margin by further additions to capital stock. Lower incremental output generates lower increments in savings and investments. This assumption determines the shape of the production function and the small s multiplied by function bracket open small kt bracket close function. At K star T, investment per capital bracket open EF bracket close is just enough to replace depreciated capital stock per capita bracket open EF bracket close. That is S multiplied by function of small k star t is equal to small d multiplied by k star t. So once the economy attains this level of capital per capita, there is no further change in the stock of capital per capita. This represents the equilibrium or steady state in the Solow model. For all levels of capital per capita less than k star t bracket open, that is to the left of k star t bracket close, investment exceeds depreciation and capital per worker increases, inducing a movement towards K star T. Whereas for all levels of capital per capita greater than K star T bracket open, that is to the right of K star T bracket close, investment is less than depreciation and capital per capita decreases, once again inducing a movement towards K star T. In this case, the capital stock is very large and so is the corresponding amount of depreciation. So, investments are not sufficient to replace all the worn out capital, so that the overall stock of capital shrinks. In this case, the savings required to replace all of depreciated capital would call for compression of current consumption on a scale that would be difficult to attain. Properties of steady state without technological progress. In the previous figure, we pointed out that the steady state equilibrium in the Solow model bracket open without technological progress bracket close was attained at small k star t. That is, once an economy attains small k star t, this level of per capita capital stock is maintained over time with no further increase or decrease. From this discussion, it should be clear that K star T is a stable equilibrium, as there is tendency for small kt to move towards small k star t from the right as well as left hand side of small k star t. Note carefully, once the economy attains small k star t, the corresponding per capita income level, which is a function of small k star t, also gets fixed and is maintained over time. This means in this model, where the source of growth is factor accumulation and there is no technological progress in steady state equilibrium, there is no growth in per capita income levels. In this model, we have assumed there is no labor force growth. This means in the long run steady state, there is no growth in aggregate output also. However, labor force growth can be easily introduced in this model. In that case also, it can be shown there is no growth in per capita income in the long run steady state. However, in that case, aggregate output grows at the same rate as the labor force in steady state equilibrium, so that per capita income remains unchanged. This model starkly demonstrates the limits from growth due to factor accumulation. As long as small kt is less than small k star t, increases in savings and investment per capita leads to increasing level of per capita income. However, this process does not continue indefinitely. It comes to a halt once the economy attains small k star t level of per capita capital stock. Increase in small kt beyond small k star t raises per capita incomes, but only temporarily. Over time, the economy comes back to small k star t. Also note that in this model, in the long run, there is zero growth in aggregate output. Bracket open, assuming labor force growth is zero, bracket close, irrespective of the savings rate. This is in stark contrast to Harrod-Dommer model we discussed earlier, wherein a higher rate of savings led to a higher rate of growth of output. We will now examine how a change in the rate of savings affects steady-state equilibrium in the Solow model using the diagrammatic approach. Suppose there is an increase in the savings rate from small s 0 to small s 1. This affects the small s, which is a function of small kt function, which shifts upward as now a higher proportion is saved at each level of aggregate output, bracket open, or income, bracket close. Since this does not affect the rate of depreciation, the small d kt function remains unchanged. Note how this affects steady state equilibrium in the Solow model, which now occurs at k star 1t instead of k star 0t. At the new steady state, the level of per capita income is higher. Also, an increase in the savings rate leads to a period of higher growth until output reaches its new higher steady state level. However, at the long run steady state, once again, there is zero growth in per capita income. So, a country with higher saving rate achieves a higher steady state level of output per capita. But the long run equilibrium of the rate of growth is same, that is zero, as a country with a lower rate of savings. Also note the relation between savings and consumption per capita in steady state. An economy where the savings rate is zero has zero investment and capital, so that output and consumption is also zero. As the savings rate increases, starting from zero, there is an increase in steady state consumption. However, in the extreme situation, when savings rate equal to 1, people save all their income. So capital and output will be very high, but consumption is zero. Therefore, in the intermediate range, whereby small s is greater than 0 but less than 1, there exists a savings rate which maximizes steady state level of consumption. The level of capital corresponding to the savings rate that yields highest level of consumption in steady state is known the golden rule level of capital. Increase in capital beyond the golden rule level reduces steady state consumption. Observe that the steady state level of per capita capital stock small k star t is the one to which small kt must converge, starting from any initial level. Therefore, an implication of this model is that regardless of initial per capita capital stock, two countries with similar savings rates, depreciation rates, and population growth rates will converge to similar standards of living in the long run. Conclusion. Let us briefly sum up what we have learned so far in this module. We learned from the two theoretical models that provide an insight into the factors determining the rate of growth of aggregate output of an economy in the long run. The Harrod-Dommer model emphasized the importance of the savings rate in this context. A higher rate of savings leads to a higher rate of growth of output in this model. The Solow model is based on different assumptions from the Harrod-Dommer model. For instance, it introduces factor substitutability, and diminishing factor returns. In the version of Solow model we examine here, we assume there is no technological progress. In this case, one of the central results in the Solow model is that a higher rate of savings leads to a higher level of per capita income in the long run. However, it does not affect the rate of growth of output. In fact, without technological progress, there is no growth in per capita output in the long run equilibrium in this model. Therefore, it emphasizes that growth cannot be based solely on factor accumulation.
Savings and investment determine the pace of capital accumulation in an economy. The process of capital accumulation contributes to economic growth. Well, according to Harrod-Dommer model, the rate of growth of output depends on the rate of savings and the capital output ratio. And both of these are assumed to be constant. Well, the Solow growth model introduces a constant returns to scale production function, and it allows for factor substitution unlike in the Harrod-Dommer model. Well, an important characteristic of the Solow model is the assumption of diminishing returns to the factor of production. Well, in the Solow model, without technological progress, in the long run steady state equilibrium, there is no growth in per capita output. Well guys, you see, the above result is driven by the assumption of diminishing marginal productivity of capital that ensures growth slows down as nations accumulate more and more what? Capital. In the Solow model, unlike in the case of Harrod-Dommer model, an increase in the savings rate does not affect the long run rate of growth. Rather, it leads to a higher level of per capita income in the long run.